In the United Kingdom, the great offices of state are traditional crown ministers, who either inherit the positions or are appointed to exercise certain largely ceremonial functions or operate as part of the government. Separate great offices exist for England and Scotland, and formerly for Ireland. Many of the great offices became largely ceremonial because historically they were so influential that the powers had to be resumed by the Crown, or dissipated. Government in all the medieval monarchies generally comprised the king's companions, later becoming the royal household from which the offices of state arose, initially having household and governmental duties. Later some of these offices split into two counterparts in the great officer of the state and the royal household, or were superseded by new offices or absorbed by existing offices. This was due to many of the offices having become hereditary and thus too removed from practical operation of either the state or the household. England. The great offices of England are, initially after the Norman conquest, England adopted the officer from the Normandy ducal court with a steward, chamberlain and constable, initially having household and governmental duties. Some of these officers later split into two counterparts in great officer of the state and the royal household, while other officers were superseded by new offices or absorbed by existing offices. This was due to many of the offices becoming hereditary due to feudalistic practices, thus were too removed from the practical operation of either the state or the royal household. The Lord High Steward and Lord Great Chamberlain were superseded in the political functions by the Justiciar and Lord High Treasurer, and in the domestic functions by household officers with similar titles. The Marshal of England assumed the place of the Constable of England in the royal palace in the command of the royal armies. The Chief Justiciar was once ranked above the Lord High Chancellor in power, influence and dignity until 1231, when the position lost its standing in the kingdom, while most of them early on became hereditary. Currently some officers are appointed while others inherit the positions. The Lord High Stewardship was held by the Earls of Leicester until 1399, when the holder became the sovereign, and since 1421, a Lord High Steward has generally only been appointed temporarily, either for the day of a coronation or for the trials of peers. The office of Lord Great Chamberlain is also hereditary, originally being held by the Earls of Oxford. Later, however, the chamberlainship came to be inherited by multiple heirs, each holding a fraction of the office. One of the holders, chosen by rotation, exercises the office as a deputy. The post of Lord High Constable was originally inherited by the Earls of Hereford, until when one holder was attainted and executed in 1521. The office reverted to the Crown, only to be reinstated for the day of a coronation. The final inheritable office is that of Earl Marshal, held by the Dukes of Norfolk. During the many periods in which the dukes were attainted, another individual was appointed to the post. Furthermore, prior to 1824, the Earl Marshal had to appoint a Protestant deputy if he was a Roman Catholic. Some officers are put into commission, that is, multiple commissioners are appointed to collectively exercise the office. The office of Lord High Treasurer has been in commission since 1714. The First Lord of the Treasury is the Prime Minister. The Second Lord is the Chancellor of the Exchequer, and the remaining Lords Commissioners are government whips. The office of Lord High Admiral was for many years also in commission, but merged with the Crown in 1964 and is now an honorary appointment in the gift of the reigning monarch. HRH Prince Philip, Duke of Edinburgh, was granted the title on his 90th birthday. The remaining officers became governmental officers. Lord Chancellor, Lord President and Lord Privy Seal are appointed by the Crown on the advice of the Prime Minister. The posts of Lord President and Lord Privy Seal are normally combined with the Cabinet Minister, usually that of Leader of the House of Commons and Leader of the House of Lords, respectively, but from 2003 the posts have been reversed, and since 2009, the Lord President has been another Cabinet Minister. The great offices had and have varying duties. The Lord High Steward was originally a holder of significant political power, but gradually became a ceremonial office, as have the Lord Great Chamberlain, Lord High Constable, and the Earl Marshal. The Lord High Treasurer, Lord High Constable, and Lord High Admiral were originally responsible for monetary, military, and naval matters respectively. The Lord President of the Council is responsible for presiding over the meetings of the Privy Council. The office of Lord Privy Seal is a sinecure, though he is technically the keeper of the Privy Seal. The Lord Chancellor is the most important of the great offices. He is the Cabinet Minister responsible for the Ministry of Justice, formerly the Lord Chancellor's Department, and the Department for Constitutional Affairs, and formerly Keeper of the Great Seal. The House of Lords Act 1999 removed the automatic right of hereditary peers to sit in the House of Lords, but the Act provided that the Lord Great Chamberlain and Earl Marshal be exempt from such a rule, so that they may continue to carry out the ceremonial functions in the House of Lords. With the Constitutional Reform Act 2005, the Lord High Chancellor has been replaced in some roles by Lord Chief Justice of England and Wales as head of the judiciary and Lord Speaker as chair of the House of Lords. Scotland. The term officer of state is sometimes used loosely of any great office under the Crown. As in England, many offices are hereditary. A number of historical offices ended at or soon after the Treaty of Union 1707. There are also a number of officers of the Crown and great officers of the royal household. Officers of state. These officer of state were also called officer of the Crown, despite there being a separate group of officers named that are not officers of state. Officers of the Crown. These officers were unlike the officer of state and did not set a vote in meetings. Great officers of the royal household. The great officers of the royal household are Lord Steward, Lord Chamberlain, the Master of the Household, Master of the Horse, Controller, joined with the Lord High Treasurer, King's Usher, Lord Leon King of Arms, Ecclesiastical Almoner, 2 chaplains. History. After the abolishment of the Mayor of the Palace, France established 7 officers of the Crown: the High Constable, the High Admiral, the High Great Chancellor, the Great Justiciar, the Great Chamberlain, the Great Protonotary, and the Great Steward as Seneschal. These officers were duplicated in the Kingdom of the Two Sicilies and Scotland. By the time of King Malcolm II, the Great Protonotary was extinct and the Great Justiciar was replaced by the Lord Justice General. The post of High Constable is held by the Earls of Errol. Originally, the heads of the Keith family held the office of Earl Mareschal, but in 1716, the holder was attainted for treason, and the office has not been re-granted. The Dukes of Argyll are the hereditary masters of the household. All other officers are Crown appointees. Many of these offices, though originally associated with political power, are only ceremonial now. The remaining officers are related to Scotland's judiciary. The Lord Justice General was originally an important noble, though in the 19th century, the office was combined with that of Lord President of the Court of Session. Now, the Lord Justice General is the head of Scotland's judiciary. The Lord Clerk Register is an officer with miscellaneous functions that included conducting the elections of representative peers and registering births and deaths. The Lord Advocate is at the head of the law offices of Scotland. All prosecutors act in his name. The Lord Justice Clerk serves as a deputy of the Lord Justice General. Finally, the Lord Lyon King of Arms is the sole judge in the Lyon Court, which determines cases relating to heraldry. Previous to the Union of 1707, there were 8 total offices of state, 4 great offices and 4 lesser offices. This limited by an Act of Parliament, such that the 2 offices of state, Controller and Master of the Requests, were merged with Lord High Treasurer and Lord Secretary respectively. The greater offices were the Lord High Chancellor, Lord High Treasurer, Lord Privy Seal, the Lord Secretary. The lesser offices were the Lord Register, the Lord Advocate, the Lord Treasurer Depute, and the Lord Justice Clerk, with the Lord Register the only one fixed in precedency. A number of offices ended at or soon after the Union of 1707. These include the High Chancellor, the High Treasurer, the Treasurer Depute of Scotland, the Secretary of State, Scotland, the Master of Requests and the President of the Privy Council. Current great offices of state. The current great offices of state are as follows: Keeper of the Great Seal of Scotland, the Right Hon. Nicholas Sturgeon, MSP, Keeper of the Privy Seal, vacant since 1922. Lord High Constable, the Right Hon. The Earl of Errol, Hereditary Master of the Household in Scotland, His Grace the Duke of Argyll. Lord Justice General, vacant since May 2015. Lord Clerk Register, the Right Hon. The Lord Mackay of Clashfern. Lord Advocate, the Right Hon. Frank Mulholland, QC. Lord Justice Clerk, the Right Hon. Lord Carloway, Lord Lyon King of Arms of Scotland, the Rev. Canon Dr. Joseph Morrow, CSDJ.